Absolutely. So, we've been very blessed. We've had the same crew for 13 years. And so everybody I work with was very close to Frank.
Mike Wolfe, the star of American Pickers, found himself in the midst of a harrowing and unexpected legal battle after being convicted for the death of his former partner, Frank Fritz. The once popular TV personality, known for scavenging treasures across the nation, now faced the chilling reality of life behind bars after being handed a life sentence. The shocking revelation of his involvement in Fritz's death unfolded slowly, first starting with what many believed to be mere business disagreements. However, what appeared as a routine arrest soon took a darker turn when the investigation uncovered disturbing details. Mike Wolfe had once posted a heartfelt message about Fritz's passing, describing him as a one-of-a-kind individual and expressing deep sorrow. But those words took on a sinister tone as investigators pieced together the grim truth. Fritz's cause of death, initially believed to be complications from a stroke, was later revealed to be much more disturbing. A key discovery, an empty pill bottle with Wolfe's faint fingerprints, ultimately led to the revelation that Fritz had been intentionally overdosed with fentanyl, a powerful opioid. The investigation uncovered chilling evidence that Wolfe had carefully administered the lethal dose, and it was revealed that he had searched for methods to simulate a death resembling a stroke. This, coupled with the suspicious text messages between the two men and the timeline of events leading up to Fritz's death, painted a clear picture of premeditated murder. As the evidence mounted, it became clear that Wolfe's role in Fritz's death was not an accident, but a carefully executed act of revenge fueled by jealousy and greed. Despite Wolfe's outward display of grief when he discovered Fritz's lifeless body, his actions in the hours leading up to the discovery raised even more suspicion. Security footage revealed Wolfe's car at Fritz's house late at night, just hours before the emergency call was made. His behavior during the emergency response seemed calculated, as if he were crafting a perfect alibi. His tears, though seemingly genuine, stood in stark contrast to the growing body of evidence against him. As the details emerged, it became clear that the man who once entertained millions with his treasure hunts had now become the central figure in a dark and tragic crime. Mike Wolfe's carefully constructed public image crumbled as investigators and the public alike were forced to confront the possibility of a deadly betrayal between old friends. Mike Wolfe, fully aware of Frank Fritz's medical history, including his previous stroke and underlying heart issues, seemed to have meticulously planned his former partner's murder. Knowing that fentanyl, a potent opioid, could mimic or exacerbate stroke symptoms, Wolfe used this knowledge to stage a perfect crime scene, making it appear as though Fritz's death was a natural result of stroke complications. He carefully positioned Fritz's body in a resting state, removing any signs of foul play. While others mourned the loss of his longtime companion, Wolfe was already focused on controlling Fritz's valuable antique collection and the intellectual property related to American Pickers. Just 48 hours after Fritz's death, Wolfe contacted his attorney about purchasing Fritz's rights for future commercial use and sought access to rare antiques previously kept hidden from the public eye. The situation grew more complicated when details of Fritz's will emerged, revealing that his substantial fortune, estimated at nearly $6 million, had been left to Mike Wolfe. This information ignited suspicion and outrage within Fritz's family, particularly his biological father, William Fritz, who filed a lawsuit to validate the will. William Fritz believed it was unusual for his son to leave everything to a friend, especially considering Frank's deteriorating health and the tensions between the two in the final years of Frank's life. This lawsuit fueled further doubts about Mike Wolfe's motives, with some speculating that Wolfe had manipulated the situation to secure Fritz's estate and legacy. Wolfe's reaction to the lawsuit only deepened the suspicion. He swiftly sought to protect Fritz's final wishes, but his actions were seen as self-serving, raising questions about whether he was trying to safeguard his late friend's desires or merely protect the massive fortune he was about to inherit. The core of the lawsuit hinged on whether Frank Fritz had the mental capacity to understand and sign the will. If the will were upheld, Wolfe would inherit the multimillion-dollar estate, and the greed and exploitation alleged during the murder trial became more apparent. In the aftermath of Fritz's death, a search of Wolfe's residence and office uncovered prescription pill bottles containing the same toxic substance found in Fritz's body. The most disturbing discovery, however, was Wolfe's journal, which revealed a deep, simmering hatred toward Frank Fritz. Wolfe's journal entries, particularly one written just weeks before Fritz's death, expressed frustration and a desire to eliminate Fritz, referring to him as a burden, and stating that there's only one way to salvage what I've built. These entries illustrated a cold, calculated plan to remove Fritz from the picture and gain full control over their shared success. As the trial progressed, the prosecution built a compelling case against Wolfe, presenting irrefutable evidence such as the medical examiner's report showing a lethal dose of fentanyl in Fritz's body, which had not been prescribed to him. Wolfe's internet search history, revealing queries about undetectable poisons and methods to simulate a stroke-related death, further solidified the case against him. Witnesses testified about the deteriorating relationship between Wolfe and Fritz, with production assistants describing Wolfe's increasing authoritarian behavior and his efforts to isolate Fritz from the show's creative direction. Emotional testimony from Danielle Colby added to the picture, recounting Wolfe's obsession with becoming the sole face of American Pickers and his manipulative actions toward Fritz. In his defense, Wolfe's lawyers attempted to paint him as a concerned friend, but this defense collapsed under the weight of testimony from Fritz's personal doctor, who confirmed that Fritz had never been prescribed the drugs found in his body at the lethal levels discovered. The prosecution also revealed Wolfe's financial motives, including his restructuring of companies to gain control of Fritz's intellectual property and his purchase of a $5 million business insurance policy, naming his company as the beneficiary in the event of Fritz's death. When the jury deliberated for just 4 hours, the verdict was clear. Mike Wolfe was guilty of murder. The courtroom erupted in chaos when Wolfe's life sentence was announced. In a fit of rage, Wolfe lunged at Fritz's family, shouting about betrayal and claiming he had built American Pickers himself. His violent outburst and frenzied remarks were a final, chilling testament to his feelings of entitlement and anger. As Wolfe was restrained and escorted out of the courtroom, his words, particularly his threats to start his own show, revealed the depth of his bitterness and greed. The unraveling of his public persona was complete, as the facade of the charming antique hunter gave way to the dark reality of a calculated killer. The judge's final words echoed in the silence before Wolfe's outburst tore through the courtroom, seemingly foreshadowing a grim conclusion. "Mr. Wolfe," he said sternly, "you painted yourself as a protector of American history and culture, but deep within you harbored revenge and murder. You used your fame to preach the values of the past while secretly plotting to take the life of the man who helped build that very foundation. Today, justice has been served, with this final life sentence, not just for Frank Fritz but also for the millions of viewers who placed their trust in you." Immediately after that fateful moment, Mike Wolfe, no longer able to maintain his facade of calm, charged across the defense table in an uncontrollable rage, marking his final public appearance before being taken into captivity for the rest of his life. As the cold prison door slammed shut behind him, his final words in court still haunt. "Goodbye forever to all of you." Was that a desperate cry from a man facing the well-deserved sentence, or simply the final act in a shameless, manipulative performance by a master con artist? The answer remains an unresolved, lingering mystery. The public reaction and lasting legacy of this case left a deep scar. Mike Wolfe, 60, and Frank Fritz had once been the dynamic duo co-hosting the popular reality TV show American Pickers. For many years, audiences worldwide grew familiar with these two men as they traversed America, scouring old barns and remote neighborhoods in search of rare antiques, each item holding hidden historical stories. Their on-screen relationship was built on cooperation, a shared passion for vintage treasures, and a little playful teasing. They seemed like an inseparable pair, complementing each other with their unique knowledge and experience, creating a special charm for the show. Viewers loved the natural interactions and occasional minor disagreements between them, seeing it as an essential part of American Pickers. However, over time, their partnership began to unravel. Behind the cheerful footage and intriguing haggling scenes, the tension between Wolfe and Fritz grew increasingly evident. Though they had been friends for years, their relationship faced strain, particularly when Fritz stopped appearing on American Pickers after season 21. The main cause of this rift was Fritz's health issues and differing work ethics. Fritz had been dealing with serious health problems, including back and heart issues, which impacted his ability to continue on the show. Additionally, the tension between Wolfe and Fritz grew as Wolfe seemed to desire more control over the direction of the program. He frequently badmouthed Fritz to network executives, attempting to isolate his co-host. After leaving American Pickers, Fritz admitted feeling sidelined from the show and unfairly treated. These issues likely served as key motivations for Wolfe to take drastic action against Fritz. The Mike Wolfe case caused an earthquake within the reality TV community. American Pickers, a show that had once captivated millions of viewers worldwide, now faced an uncertain future. The History Channel swiftly removed all episodes featuring Wolfe and issued a statement expressing shock and offering condolences to the Fritz family. Many major sponsors also withdrew their support, leaving the future of the program hanging in the balance. Frank Fritz's family filed a petition in court to gain control over his antique collection and intellectual property rights, promising to honor the legacy he left behind while pursuing legal action against the History Channel for enabling Wolfe's increasingly erratic behavior. Mental health experts analyzed the case, suggesting that Mike Wolfe may have been suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, a condition that could have worsened after years of living under the spotlight. Dr. Robert Keller, a forensic psychologist who closely followed the trial, explained, "While this doesn't excuse his actions, it helps us understand the difference between the charming public persona and the private behavior full of hatred. People with narcissistic traits can be charismatic and calm outwardly, but inside, they harbor intense resentment and a desire for revenge." Fritz's departure from the show likely triggered a deep narcissistic injury that lasted for years. Perhaps the most alarming aspect was how Mike Wolfe used his fame as a television personality to manipulate public perception. In the weeks following Fritz's death, he took to social media pretending to mourn and blaming his old friend's passing on complications from a stroke, all while shamelessly using the opportunity to promote special merchandise in Fritz's memory. "This isn't just a murder," prosecutor Sarah Donovan passionately declared in her closing arguments. "It's a calculated deception of millions of trusting viewers who grieved for a man that the defendant murdered and then callously exploited their grief to profit himself." Investigators discovered that over $1 million had been raised in the weeks after Fritz's death, with most of the funds being funneled into accounts that only Wolfe had access to. As Mike Wolfe begins his life behind bars, the viewers and supporters who once stood by him are left grappling with mixed emotions, struggling to reconcile the public image of a passionate antiques collector with the reality of a man capable of murder and violence. "Right in the courtroom, we feel betrayed," Robert Jenkins, a middle-aged American who had been a long-time fan of the show, bitterly remarked. "We invited him into our homes every week. We trusted his simple charm and passion for preserving history. To find out it was all just a facade. It's brutal." Many other television personalities who had appeared with Wolfe also spoke out, distancing themselves from him, issuing statements of shock, and urging the public to respect Frank Fritz's memory. For the American Pickers crew, the tragedy continues. Their testimonies in court revealed a deep divide within the team, with some still believing in Wolfe's innocence, while others were completely convinced of his guilt. Danielle KBY, who had testified for the prosecution, put her television career on hold, citing a need for healing and reflection. In a brief statement, she asked for privacy and expressed hope that the legacy of antique preservation, which had initially brought everyone together, could somehow continue despite these tragic circumstances. Although Wolfe was sentenced to life in prison, the legacies of both Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz will persist, though in entirely opposite lights. Frank Fritz, during his years on American Pickers, left behind the image of a humble collector with an extensive knowledge of unique antiques and a down-to-earth, humorous personality.